What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel. Dan Lindsay is joining me once again here. This is post Money in the Bank content for you guys. I do sincerely apologize. We had planned on doing some Money in the Bank prediction content before, obviously this past weekend, but unfortunately I ended up coming down with some pretty bad migraines for several days, starting on July 4th, kind of leaking into the weekend. Dan ended up getting quite busy with work and just with life in general. He did send me all of the picks that he wanted me to talk about. Unfortunately, I just never, I could never get to it just because of the migraines and everything. But we are back here, and we're going to do something pretty special today. It's the first time we've done something like this. We obviously have quite a bit of topics we talk about on the channel, but today we've got a kind of myriad of topics that we're going to talk about today. We're going to go over some of the stuff that happened at Money in the Bank. We're going to talk about different things like John Cena's retirement and kind of what we think that might look like. We will not be able to really see him. Unless you like bad movies. Other than that, no, it's so mean. No, John, well, he's gotten better at the acting. A little better. Love
you, John.
We definitely love John Cena here. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about, kind of where we think the Intercontinental Championship is going to be going, the World Heavyweight Championship, maybe a little Bloodline, So, we're going to talk about a whole myriad of stuff. It's a quite long list, so grab your popcorn, your Cheez-Its, your chips, whatever you choose to snack on, and maybe a little bit of water because you might need it. Lord knows I'm gonna. So we'll get this thing started. So we're going to start with, obviously, we already mentioned it, John Cena. For those of you who did not see it, did not watch the news, or watch the pay-per-view, or don't live with technology or anything that you could see things, John Cena has officially announced his retirement from wrestling. Now, it's not going to be a standard retirement or a one-match retirement. Like, he hasn't announced his last match. He's actually kind of going on what I'm calling a Kobe Bryant-esque retirement tour. If those of you who remember the Kobe Bryant retirement tour, may he rest in peace, of course. He kind of announced before the season, this is it, this is my last dance, and so, people gave him gifts, and every place he went to, it was really special, and, he seems to be generally in a better mood than his normal crotchety basketball self, like he always was, right?
He was just competitive, man.
Oh yeah, he was very, very famous for not particularly talking to opponents or being friendly with other players or anything like that. But his last season, he seemed to ease up a bit, kind of understanding the gravity of the moment. But regardless, so he's kind of going. John Cena's going on kind of a Kobe Bryant-esque retirement tour, or a David Ortiz-esque, Mariano Rivera-esque, Derek Jeter-esque. A retirement tour.
Vince Carter, Tim Duncan.
Carter. Well, Tim Duncan just kind of announced his retirement in the middle of the night. I don't know if that really counts.
I count it.
Fair enough.
Fans, I count it. But to your point, this is going to be 2025. If 2025 wasn't already going to be an awesome year of wrestling, it just got a million times better. Granted, yes, we're going to lose the GOAT, and I don't know. It's weird to call him the GOAT, but I mean, I honestly don't know really who else stands up to it at this point.
Roman Reigns.
Not yet. It's another discussion for another time.
It sure is, yeah.
But for now,
I don't agree that he is. By the way, I'm giving a person.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I hesitate to call him the GOAT.
Or Ric Flair.
I'll go Cena on that one.
Okay.
Anyway, I think this is cool. I already want to buy this shirt, even though he's probably going to come out with like 20 more shirts all of next year. Mm-hmm. I want to buy this one shirt already. I'm already trying to set aside money to buy tickets to somewhere. If he's not in the Greenville show, if he comes to Charlotte, Atlanta, heck, I don't know, Knoxville, Nashville, something like that. If he's within a half a day's drive, I'm gonna go see him. I've never seen him in person before, so I'm hoping they book out dates really early for this. Because again, wrestling is so cool again. I think it's honestly a great, as he was talking about in the PLE, as he was talking about in his press conference. the time is now.
Yep,
but I think it is. That shock of seeing that towel was like, whoa. But it seems appropriate because, I don't think he wants to just put a foot in every 3, 6, 9 months, take it back out, step back in, step back out. So I mean, I think it's great. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest questions around this right now is, do you think he gets title number 17 next year?
Yeah, so before I answer that question, to clarify, it is a full year.
Yes.
So from January of 2025, when Raw moves to Netflix, until December of 2025. He's
obviously going to be on that show.
Of course. and until December of 2025, we're getting 30 to 40 John Cena appearances on pay-per-views, on Raws,
for
on
sure
SmackDowns,
Royal Rumble, for sure Elimination Chamber, for sure WrestleMania.
Yep.
I gotta imagine maybe even like a SummerSlam too. The big ones. Mm-hmm. Maybe he seems like the Money in Bank PLE, so I'm assuming we'll see him there. Maybe he gets the briefcase one more time.
I hope not.
No, I know.
Although that's not the worst idea I've ever heard.
If that's
can you imagine John Cena running around with a Money in the Bank briefcase, knowing at any point I can cash this in for number 17?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's actually not bad.
If he fails at Roy, if he fails at the Rumble, if he fails at Chamber, fails at Mania to win a title, give him the briefcase to cash in. Whoever's champion.
Interesting.
Randy Orton.
Maybe. Maybe.
So yeah. Do you think whether it's one of the PLEs or the briefcase, do you think he gets number 17?
You know what? I think if you'd asked me a year ago, I think the answer would have been absolutely not, just because of the landscape of everything. But with this introduction of the new World Heavyweight Championship, as not necessarily story fodder, like as in it doesn't matter, but it's a title that can be bounced around and it not really lose too much prestige at this point in its inception. Now, obviously, a decade, 15 years from now, we hope that's not the case.
Right.
But for now, given how it was on the shoulder of one guy for the longest time in Seth Rollins, and then obviously now it's kind of been hopped around between Drew and Damian, and now we're getting into some craziness. I think that Cena could win that championship in the right circumstance and it not really hurt anybody too badly. The key is, though, is who's gonna have that championship by the time Cena would want it. Right. So let's say he doesn't want it until minimum SummerSlam of 2025. So that's August or July, late July, whatever, of 2025. Is Gunther still, because I believe that Gunther is winning this weekend. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Or not this weekend, the SummerSlam weekend.
Yeah.
I don't see a world outside of just pure chaotic shenanigans that he does not walk away with that belt. Yeah. So is he still champion then? Because I gotta be honest, as much as I love John Cena, if a 50-year-old John Cena beats Gunther, I'm probably quitting wrestling. So I don't care I don't care if it's for 17 or not. That's just ridiculous. What's he gonna tap out to the to the STF? I've had.
I don't know if Cena can even get the STF around.
I've had a nuclear bomb go off right in front of me and not died, but the STF is too much. Like, no, of course not. So who's the champion at that point? Is it somebody that matters to John? Is it CM Punk? Is it Randy Orton? Is it Seth Rollins? Like, who is the champion at that point? I think that's really going to matter a lot. I can't see him winning the belt in its current form, the WWE Championship. I could definitely see him wanting to win that more, just based on its history. Yep. But at the same time, I think it's going to be passed around. We got Cody, obviously, who's the champion right now. Roman Reigns, anybody else in the Bloodline, The Rock. Like these are the guys that are going to be competing for this belt for the next year. I just can't see John Cena just kind of inserting himself into this thing going, I would like to beat Jacob Fatu for the or whoever, right? Or you can name whoever it is, Roman Reigns, whatever it is, right? We've already told that story a million times. Yeah. So it's going to depend on who's the champion. I would like to see it. If anything, and this is going to sound really upsetting because I, for one, am still somebody that oftentimes thinks of Ric Flair as the greatest of all time. He's just been a bit too much for me to handle the last 5 years as to
10?
well, I mean, me personally 5, other people 10, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Other people his whole career. I mean, for crying out loud. People haven't been able to stand him for his whole career. But, you know, for me, I just, you know, the controversy that he brings and the fact that he just kind of won't stop. He just won't let go for whatever the reason is. Pride, ego, money. I don't know what it is. Just because he doesn't have anything else to do. I don't know what it is. But he just can't let go. And I don't want that guy to be confused with the guy that I were to think of as the greatest of all time. I would honestly, and this is going to sound horrible, I'd rather just put the guy out of his misery and have John just overtake that. Because really, that's the claim for Ric Flair.
Right.
Sure, longevity, of course, but also the championships. I've won more championships than anybody outside of John.
Yep.
If John wins more championships, world championships than anybody, I think that you've got to put him at that GOAT spot. If he's not there already, I mean, there's obviously
many consider him. Yeah.
Many consider him the greatest already. I am one of those people that would definitely kind of lean towards that if I don't think it's Ric Flair. But for me, I think that I could see it. I'd like to see it. I don't know if it'll happen, but I wouldn't mind it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would have loved to see it, honestly. You know, in the not to fantasy book all of next year, but I think that'll be fun. We were talking about that already before we started recording about maybe booking, you know, at least a few opponents or something. You know, well, I think that's, you know, kind of just in the back of our minds right now. But, you know, I think it'd be fun to see him win 17. You bring up a really, really good point of who has the title, and you know, you're not gonna be Gunther. I almost think Cena would have to beat it in a multi-man, you know, win it in a multi-man match.
That's certainly a possibility.
Not damage whoever the champion is at the time as much. You know, I don't think that would take legitimacy away from Cena winning it. I just, you know, I think in interest to protect storylines beyond his retirement, I would think it'd be a multi-man match, maybe not. Again, depends on the champion. You know, I think you could take away from Priest if Priest somehow had it sometime next year. What have you. You know, I just, you know, but it would be great to see it. I think it's, you know, it'd be wonderful to see just so you say number 17. In the back of my mind, too, I'm kind of like, what would be really, really cool would to have Orton win it, Cena take it from him for number 17, then Orton get it back, and Orton only be like 1 or 2 behind Cena himself.
Yeah.
You know, that
he's already at 14.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, the likelihood, I mean, that's probably really, really extreme, low chances of happening, but, you know, that'd be fun in itself to kind of, cause I mean, you know, we're going to get some great matches, I think, with some young talent, but rekindle old rivalries. Punk's already been like, come on, Cena, let's go one more dance, you know. And not a challenge, is more of a good nature. Let's just, you know, let's have one more time out, you know. I think that would be great. You know, I think that would almost maybe be perfect for a day one on Raw and Netflix. Like those two open the show or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ratings, just, you know, that would just be cool. You know, I'm looking forward to what this storylines have for Cena. You know, it sounded to me, if I'm not reading too much between the lines, where Cena basically said, you know, at some point in the last couple of years, hey, this is my idea for retiring. You tell me when the right time is, and it sounds like H made that call recently in recent months and said, I think we need to pull the trigger very soon on this. When do we do it? And it came together. You know,
yeah.
Let's get another documentary on that.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, so yeah, I think it's be great. I hope he wins the 17. A couple PLEs I'm curious about really quick. What do you think? Do you, you know, he's obviously wants to be in Chamber. Would you put him in a Chamber match? Or would you put that Chamber match just as him and 5 other guys? Or would you put that around a title?
I think the only way I would put him in an Elimination Chamber match is if he specifically requests it. If he's like, no, I want to be in one. Mm-hmm. Now, this isn't, to be fair, this is not even remotely the same Elimination Chamber that it was when I was a kid, right? I mean, the Elimination Chamber when I was a kid, terrifying. I mean, brutal, steel everywhere, everything hurt, you're bleeding all over the place, Triple H just destroying his throat, like, just like, you know, like, or going in there with a torn groin, like, just, just brutality, these elimination chambers. So, like, it's not that anymore. There's padding, and it's not quite as taut tightly with the chain, and so there's a little more give. Like, it's not quite as bad. But at the same time, I don't love the idea of a guy who has so much to lose by getting hurt and so much to kind of lose being in an elimination chamber match specifically, or a Hell in a Cell match specifically, or a Money in the Bank ladder match. Like these matches that just have such high chance of injury in them. But if he specifically says, no, this is it, I'm going out with, in a blaze of glory, I'm going to be in an elimination chamber match before I'm done. Okay, John, go right ahead. But if it's up to me and he does not have the choice, I would probably just have him be in a match. Just either one-on-one or a fatal four-way or something, right? Or just at least be involved. Get involved in the elimination chamber match if he's desperate to face a specific person.
Right.
A la Shawn Michaels versus, with The Undertaker back in 2009 or whatever that was, when he interfered in the elimination chamber, cost The Undertaker the world championship just so he could face him again at WrestleMania. So, something like that, right? Well, if you want to tell a story, I get it. I personally would not put him in a chamber match unless he specifically is saying, I want to be in one. Then, of course, you give the man what he wants.
I think it'd be fun to have him in a chamber match just from the aspect of, I think you could almost build him up at the beginning of the year. And I'm taking this from one of our favorite podcasters, Sam Roberts, not Sam Wrestling. Kind of tell a story of really give a hot start, but then he gets put into some PLEs where it's like, he has a chance to get to number one contendership, or he has a chance to get a title, and he falls short. He has a chance, and he falls short. I think that could be interesting. I think a chamber match for a title could be very good for a title change. If they want to give him, if they do want to build him up for number 17, that way it's early. Get back off of him within a few months before Mania. If you want the title at Mania around certain people or not. Maybe they finally get, anyway. So I think you could do that. That's the one thing I think I'm afraid of is Cena getting hurt during his retirement tour.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen him come back rapidly from multiple injuries before, but that was also 10, 15 years ago, so it's like he's knocking on the door of 50.
Yeah.
So I don't.
If he's not already 50.
I think he said he was 47 in the press conference.
Is he 47?
But I thought it was 52. But 47, 50, same difference. His body isn't what it used to be 10, 15 years ago.
No.
So yeah, and one more thing around him. I'm curious what you think. Royal Rumble. Do you give him a spot in the Rumble, or do you center a storyline and match around him at Rumble?
Yeah, I think you give him a. I think you give him a spot in the Rumble. I think it's easy. It's an easy way to protect somebody. You don't have to be in there for 35, 40 minutes unless, of course, the story dictates that you do. Mm-hmm. So I think it opens up the possibility of a lot of different arenas. It's an easy way to further whatever story he's being told. Right. Whether it's I'm an underdog and I need to win this Rumble to go to WrestleMania to have a world title shot, if that's the story you want to tell, and he wants to be in there for 45 minutes and make it to the final 2 or 3 and then get eliminated, or win the whole thing. I don't know. You can do that if you really want. I wouldn't, personally, but you can if you wanted to.
Right.
You can just have him go in there and eliminate somebody that had previously beat him in the year and set him back in some way, or whatever. There's so many different ways that you can do it. You could just have him interfere in the Rumble and cost somebody the match. And the match, if you like, you can put... If Cena's in the Rumble, there's all different ways that you could tell that story, and it's just about as flexible and as kind of versatile as it.
You can almost set up, half a dozen storylines for him for his retirement tour. Yep. That could be like his third or fourth time back, and he takes out a couple people, struggles with a couple people, maybe makes it to the final 4 or final 5. And all of a sudden you have 5-6 storylines for him up there. So yeah, I'm with that. I wouldn't mind in the Rumble, 20-25 range, something like that. Don't have to have him in there long at all. I think since that's so early in the year, I think it'd be great. Get him at day one, have him make one more appearance, and then show up at the Rumble and kick off his retirement tour in style.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say this: there is one thing that I would like to see him do, and I know this wasn't in our notes.
No,
so
you're fine.
this is the whole thing. One thing I'd like to see him do is win the one championship he has never won, which is the Intercontinental title.
The IC title.
I would like to see him win an Intercontinental title. I'd like to see him take it off of whomever has it. Whether it's Sami Zayn, whether it's Braun Breaker, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't love that, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. I'd like to see him win it, even if it's just for, one pay-per-view to the next and he loses it again. Just to say that he won it, because the fact that, there's so many, there's double Grand Slam champions in WWE. There are people that have won every single championship twice, and he has not won every single championship once because he's not won the IC title. And he's the greatest of all time. So, and to me, that is not an oversight necessarily, but that's a shame. I think he should win it. So I'd like to see that. If I could pick one title for him to win out of everything, I'd like to see him win the IC title.
I just thought something that would be wonderful. Him and Sheamus in a triple threat or fatal four-way for the IC title. Sheamus hasn't won it yet.
And maybe you can have Sheamus win it off John Cena, if you'd like. That would be a lovely story. Yeah. Okay, well, I didn't mean to take the words out of your mouth.
No, I don't. No, I think that's you exactly where I was going with that. I love that, honestly. I do. I think that's great because you can dovetail a couple stories, which I was gonna we'll get to that a little bit too. Dovetail a couple stories really easy. That's almost seamless. I almost feel like that almost might be more important than getting number 17 for him.
Maybe.
Sure. To say he's a Grand Slam champion, when a lot of, like you just said, some are double Grand Slam champs.
Yep.
And he hasn't won the IC title.
I think Miz is one of those guys, right?
Yeah.
Miz is a double Grand Slam champion. Multiple time US, multiple time WWE, multiple time tag, multiple time IC, and multiple time EF. Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So that'd be fun. And then that's just another. Well, yeah, I will have to do a separate pod and feuds we want to see him have. Last matches with veterans. There's another wonderful storyline throughout the years that Miz and Cena had, and those two got to go at it one more time, at least for us, for the fans. Have to.
Yeah, I think his last match should be against the guy who calls him his childhood hero, R-Truth.
Well, who hits all the moves though?
That's right. I don't know. I think they just go back and forth. One of them shoulder tackles the other. The other one just gets up and hits the ropes and shoulder tackles the other guy. They just keep shoulder tackling each other. It'll be a whole thing.
Attitude adjustment. Get out of that. Attitude adjustment for the other. And
I don't know how they would pull off a double 5-knuckle shuffle on each other, but let's figure out a way. Find a way to do it.
It's truth.
That's right. He'll find a way. He'll give it to himself if he has to.
He'll just go lay him down.
I would just like to see John Cena doing the 5-knuckle shuffle against R-Truth. And obviously it takes 90 years for that move to be finished. And so I would just like to see R-Truth just sitting there, instead of being knocked out or whatever, him just go, "This is the coolest thing ever." As John said, "Ow!" As I'm just dropping things all over the place.
Anyway. That would be I love that idea, honestly.
Maybe not the last match, but I think it'd be a crime shape if we didn't get it at some point.
Trish sends him into retirement. Gets AA'd by gets sent to retirement with his own moves.
Pulls the Shawn Michaels, "I'm sorry, I love you" to John. Sorry, I love you. Just the worst. Oh, we're awful. Please don't do that. We'll do the match, just not that part.
Oh man, that's fun. And that's the thing. It's there's so many people you could have a match with that a lot of them probably won't be maybe, but I have a feeling many of those matches probably won't have a chance to happen just because if he's only gonna run about 2/3 of the schedule, I gotta imagine in those dates I can't imagine he might be. I'm thinking for a month or two it'll be Raw, Raw episodes. I can't see him unless it's just a really big story being on both Raw and SmackDown. Given the current landscape, I would feel he's gonna do Raw for a couple months with that PLE. After that PLE, switch to SmackDown, vice versa.
Yeah.
I would think. I don't know. He could do it. They can do it any way they want to. Obviously. He's not really tied to a brand, and we always see the brands gets split anyway. You know, the brand split never fully takes place. I feel it's doing better this year, but you know, the brand split is always gets muddled anyway after 4 or 5 months of the draft actually happening. So
Sure.
who knows what they do? But I can't imagine unless he's just trying to get those dates into like he promised and around his schedule with movies or whatever. Yeah, I don't see him really doing Raw and SmackDown this week, but who knows? I think that will be another interesting thing, but. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of matches people are going to want that we're just not going to be able to squeeze in despite having all those available dates.
Right.
Unless it's just a lot of multi-man matches. Tag matches, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? We'll see. It's going to be fun.
Can't wait. So on to the matches actually from Money in the Bank. Wanted to bring up the women's Money in the Bank first. This is the one I got correct.
Yes, you did.
I will say I'm kind of glad we didn't do a predictions podcast. So I would have bombed everything but this one.
Well, hey, listen, you
which is par for the course for me anyway.
That's
yes,
not
it is.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
You're like 90%. I'm like 20% over here, maybe 30%.
Well, then you should just agree with me more. I think that's what that.
Well, no, that's just more fun though. People want to see us fighting.
That's fair. Well, then you shouldn't complain about being wrong. I don't know what to tell you, man. No, but maybe I'll just start intentionally picking wrong just to throw you off sometimes.
You would never do that.
I would not. I
Nope.
have too much ego for that.
Yep.
I can't do it. No. So I obviously I said publicly on the podcast. I've said to you off camera, on camera, in between camera. I don't know, whatever. That there were two correct answers for the women's chamber. Good grief. Money in the Bank match. I personally thought it should be Chelsea just because I'd like to see that kind of just annoying heel with the briefcase more on Chelsea. I think that she would just do so well in that snobby heel persona. And then just who wouldn't want to see like her cash in on some like dominant champion like a Rhea Ripley or somebody that she just should not be anywhere near and win, and then just like, kind of like, again, like what Carmella did a few years ago. Or if it wasn't Chelsea, then it was Tiffany, and then there was nobody else.
No.
And obviously, Tiffany has a much higher ceiling, infinitely higher ceiling than Chelsea Green does, so I'm not mad at it at all. Again, personally myself, in her hometown, I would have liked to see Chelsea win, but was not upset at all that it was Tiffany. Now, if it was not Tiffany and Chelsea didn't win, I would have thrown something at my television. But I was not mad at all at Tiffany. I get it completely. Obviously, you picked that correctly, so, congrats to you. And congrats to Tiffany Stratton. She deserves it. She's fantastic. My goodness, is she popular already. I mean, it's crazy how
I'm
much
curious
she's
to
over.
See how girly the briefcase is.
You better get whatever you're imagining. It's not even close. It's going to be way worse or better, depending on
like what we're thinking, what it actually is.
We're thinking a 7.
What we're thinking, what it actually is.
We're thinking about a 7.5. It's going to be like a 13. Like it's going to just be like, oh my god, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
be blinged out like crazy. But it's fun, and it's kind of like the the reverse result of the Money in the Bank men's match where. That was one and cashed in the same night. So what do you think? You see Tiffany holding on to this for? Do you think the cash-ins within the next few months, or do you think we won't get to cash in until next year?
I think it depends on what happens at SummerSlam. I think that if you want to have Nia Jax win the title. Then I think you have Tiffany.
I'm about 4 months late on that one.
I think you have Tiffany just hold on to it for quite a while because I obviously Tiffany and Nia Jax are kind of allies on screen here, and so if you want to do that, then I say there's a good chance that Tiffany's going to hold this thing for a while because again, she doesn't need to win the belt right now.
Right. You
You have more than enough talent on both rosters to get away with the fact that Tiffany does not need to carry your show right now. And so I think if you don't have to have her have the title right now, I think you shouldn't. I'm always of the belief that when the time is right, you pull the trigger on the young talent and let's see what they have. But if it's not the right time, you better not, because you're going to drown them. Like you just shouldn't do that. Exactly. So for me, I think that Tiffany, if Nia Jax wins it at SummerSlam, she should just hang on to it. Who knows where that story goes? Maybe eventually you cash in on Nia, and that's your turn, and Tiffany either turns face or, God forbid, Nia Jax tries to turn face. I will never allow it. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, Tiffany's kind of already... she doesn't act like a face, but everybody loves her already, so it wouldn't be much of a face turn.
Yeah, she's very popular. She has the heelish tendencies, but she's popular, and I respect that. She could be that tweener or face very easily. I'm curious about where SummerSlam goes with that. Who else kind of starts getting put back in the picture of the women's titles? And she even kind of... I didn't watch the whole press conference with her section, or her portion, but she made it sound, if I heard this correctly, that she might not even be worried about trying to cash it in on Raw. She might just focus on whoever's the champ on SmackDown.
Yep. You never know.
Which I thought was interesting. I mean... doesn't say she can't change her mind and she wants to go cash in on someone else over on Raw, but because I mean she has that option to appear on either, and I think maybe that's how she's showcased. A couple weeks we see her in SmackDown, so we'll see her a couple weeks she pops up on Raw, and stuff like that. But with Rhea back, who knows? Maybe you don't really even need her over there because. You got a big story over there. It is over on the women's title,
and you don't need her. You don't need her to do it on SmackDown either, because you're gonna get Charlotte back. Although actually, she's gonna be on SmackDown because Andrade's on SmackDown now. So she's gonna be on SmackDown when she comes back. I don't know when that is, but usually
the fall.
Yeah, usually major knee injuries is around a year, and I think she got injured in December of 2023. So we're right around 7 months. So I would say probably another 3 to 4 months minimum.
Right.
For before she's back. Who knows? Maybe she blasts through it and comes back sooner. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she'll be back. You obviously already have Bayley there still. You still have Naomi there.
Yep.
You still have Bianca Belair. You still have Jade Cargill. You still have Nia Jax. You've got all these major players. You do not need Tiffany Stratton to carry the load right now. If you want her to cash in on Bayley quickly and just skyrocket her like mad, all right, fine. I can see that story happening, but I personally wouldn't do it yet. That's just me. I think that she could benefit from a long Money in the Bank, annoying heel. Because she's only been on the main roster for, what?
6 months?
Yeah, 6 months. So even though she's popular, her character is not fully fleshed out and developed on screen yet, because of course it's not. She's only been on for 6 months. There's no way it could be.
And she's not even like a regular TV. She's not really regularly on TV every week. That's part of some other things, but... And that's not a knock against her. There's a lot of storylines at SmackDown. They only have 2 hours right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some stories, do take 2 or 3 weeks to kind of get back to.
They're going to USA, right?
Yes.
You wonder if the USA Network's going to give them a 3rd hour. They gave it to Raw. And Raw's going to just be on Netflix. So it's not like you're also going to have 3 hours of live network television on Monday. You wonder if they're going to say, well... we're going to give you the 3rd hour. I don't know. Maybe they won't because it's on Friday, and Friday nights are different than Mondays, obviously. So.
Right. I think SmackDown in its iteration is okay with 2. And I kind of, I mean, who knows? That definitely would allow for more storylines, and they're talking about doing a secondary title for both basically doing a women's Intercontinental title, women's U.S. title. So,
I wouldn't mind it. There's so many women that are being underused.
Yeah, then they would have to, I think, give that 3rd hour to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Just so they could actually, so those titles don't get buried like the tag titles usually get buried.
For sure, yeah. And unfortunately, there is a reason why the NXT women's tag championships are defunct and replaced with the North American, because they were like, well, we're trying to get these women to, team up and kind of have, have these underutilized women on this deep NXT women's roster, which they had a very deep one at the time. They can get more screen time. Well, nobody really did anything after, and once a bunch of them got called up and split up, and then there was just nobody left. It was just 3 teams that are just sitting there doing nothing. And so all right, we'll just make a singles title. That way we can only use 6 or 7 of these people, and that's fine. So I obviously I'm very happy that Tiffany won. Again, would have preferred Chelsea personally, but not at all upset about it. So we'll see what happens with that. But definitely, I think the only way that she cashes in quickly is if Bayley wins at SummerSlam.
Agreed.
If Bayley does not win at SummerSlam, I think regardless Tiffany should hold it for a while. But
yeah. I don't expect the alliance to last very long with her and Nia. So the Money in the Bank could be that reason where that alliance doesn't.
Right.
That Money in the Bank could be the reason that alliance shatters pretty quickly.
Sure.
But I mean, she could. I could see her almost using maybe after SummerSlam using Nia as like her bodyguard. It's like,
yeah,
hey, I got this. I don't want people touching me.
Yeah, for sure.
Nia's like, got it.
Yeah. I wonder what Nia gains in all this. That's the interesting thing to me. Is like what is in this? Why is Nia doing this? I understand why Tiffany's doing this. You got the baddest woman in the entire division as your bodyguard. Duh, that's what it is. What's Nia gaining? That's going to be the story that intrigues me. Is why is Nia putting her ego aside, seemingly, to help out Tiffany?
Well, I think
what does she gain?
I think you said it right there perfectly. It's to make it look like her ego is. She's, I think it's to kind of make her more appealing to, be like, oh, maybe she's not so bad or something. Or
and maybe it's a long-term investment. Maybe Nia helps Tiffany cash in down the road and uses that position. Like, I've been helping you for 8 months.
Where's my title shot?
Where's my title shot? And Tiffany's like, nah. Like, and just like the whole thing. And she's like, oh, no, okay, well, now I'm just going to rip you in half kind of thing. Maybe that's the story. Who knows? But I am intrigued about that aspect of it, but we'll see.
Cool. On to some, onto some Bloodline stuff now. I thought that tag match was a lot of fun. I definitely picked Cody and friends, as we'll call them.
I did not.
I'm not surprised the Bloodline won. I was kind of hoping for a lot more shenanigans than what happened outside of the usual ref bumps that we always get in a Bloodline match. That's just par for the course now, basically. Ref bump. If we don't have a ref bump in a Bloodline match, the match hasn't. We know the match isn't over.
Hasn't started. Yeah. There's not even a match. You might as well not even rang the bell yet.
No. So where do you think we're heading for SummerSlam? Do you think we're going straight to Cody and Solo at SummerSlam?
Unfortunately, I do think so.
Unfortunately, interesting.
Well, look, I'm a big proponent that I think it should be Cody Randy at SummerSlam. I was the kind of guy that, if I were to have made a video, I would have picked the Bloodline, but not because they would have dominated, although I do prefer that in some ways. I would have actually said the reason is because Randy Orton RKO's Cody and cost him the match. That was my kind of thing where he was just turning on him, and that was that. But look, for me, I've said this again to you off camera, in between camera, on camera, stupid jokes, right? I am a firm believer, especially with bad guys. If you debut a heel that's supposed to be this big, in this instance, the big bad wolf. That's such a bad joke. Good Lord. I'm so sorry.
I never even thought about it that way.
In this instance, that's basically what he is. He is a dominant force. Imagine how bad it looks if you lose your first match. Just ask Karrion Kross. He still hasn't recovered, and it's been 6 years. So, it's one of these things where it just does, no matter what you do, it does irreparable damage to your character. And so for me, there was no other option for the Bloodline to win, whether it was because Randy cost them the match, whether it was because they won clean, whether it was because of further interference from other people, debuting members. I don't know. Whatever the reason is, the Bloodline had to win on Saturday. And thank goodness they did. And again, they won. Obviously, there was some shenanigans with ref bumps and stuff, but quite frankly, they won about as clean of a Bloodline win as you can get.
I mean, there was Solo and Jacob were pretty doggone tough in that match.
There was very little. To me, there was very little doubt that they were ever going to win. When I'm watching the match, I'm going through it, and I'm like, there's no scenario where this match is flowing that I can see them losing. And that's, I think, a great thing. I think that that's how they should have done it. if you're not going to do Randy versus Cody right now, which, I mean, you don't have to. You can save that money match for when you need it. Like, that's
going to be there for a while. I mean, I can't imagine Randy's not going to be around for at least another year or two, barring any injuries. So, I mean, that opportunity is going to be there for a while, sure. I think. I was kind of the similar line of thinking to where I would have picked more of an Orton turning on. My brief thought on this whole match, because I said it in a text, but I didn't really explain it to you. My brief thought is, like, it'd be cool to start seeing some small pieces of Roman rebuilding a new bloodline under him again to eventually come back in the next few months, and that would start with Jimmy coming back. My line of thinking was Jimmy comes back, helps even the odds 4v4. Just because it's since it's a tag match, I mean, anybody can pretty much be in there. Even though Tama basically was the one not competing in the match, he was still involved. He was still going to be involved, obviously. So I thought it'd been cool for like Jimmy to come out and kind of everybody be like, "You're helping us? What?" Get confused, but okay, let's go with it. But at the same time, him helping, but then that at the end of the match, whatever the result of the match was, Randy just looks at Cody and is like, "You didn't trust me?" And he turns on him there.
Maybe
he gives me RKO. RKO, hanging DDT, give him another RKO, whatever. To speak just more of like, you didn't trust me to help you, be by your side, and I've been by your side ever since you came back. In a sense. So that's where I was going. I'm still kind of waiting, and I think it's I'm still waiting for Roman to come back to bring back his new cohort, whatever that looks like. I sent you a picture the other day of like 5 more guys that could potentially, probably not, but I think it was 4 or 5. I'm pretty sure it was 5 guys though. A couple names I don't even think I knew.
Yeah.
But one of them was, Jake was younger brother, and there was 1 or 2, and there's Lance Anoa'i,
Anoa'i, yeah.
Anoa'i. There's Lance Anoa'i and another Anoa'i, I believe, in that picture. The likelihood of 1 or even 2 of them appearing is decent, but the rest of them, who knows? But
yeah,
I'm waiting for those eggs to be laid to be like, when's Roman coming back? When we're gonna get his true bloodline back and have all that fun and shenanigans.
Yep.
So I was kind of hoping we get some kind of little Easter egg there. But I'm fine waiting. It'll be worth the wait. I'm excited for that wait. But I mean, it seems like we're pretty much destined for Solo versus Cody at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
and unless it's Jacob, I mean, I could.
No,
see...
I don't think so. I think it's got to be Solo. I think you're positioning him as the power player here, and for me, I look at this and I'm not the biggest fan of doing Solo versus Cody right now. I understand why you're doing it. You're really leaning into Solo taking over as tribal chief and the power going to his head and everything like that. And I know that there is a myriad of directions that I guess you can go in, but for me, I don't love any of them. I'm not the biggest fan of any of the directions that WWE is going to pigeonhole themselves into. Unfortunately, for me and my fandom, I think the best option is for Solo to win. Because for me, what the alternatives are, Cody beats Solo clean. He looks like an absolute schlup. Like, that's just not, like, how many times has Cody beat Solo at this point? Like 3, 4, 5?
Yeah.
Like, at this point, like, it's just, it's going to look like exact same, like, what's changed? He just put on a necklace and put gloves on. Like, there's no difference, right? Like, there's...
Right.
And he started saying, acknowledge me, like that other guy that we all actually like. Like, that's, it's not going to go, like, that's what people are going to say.
That's what I'm yearning for now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what people are going to say, and I don't want that for Solo. I don't think anybody does.
No, right.
So you can't do that. Are you going to have Solo have the match, he gets cost the match by disqualification, or he throws the match to beat up Cody more? Well, I don't know about you, but if that's the main event of a Big 4 pay-per-view, I'm going to be pretty pissed that I spent all that money for a ticket for the main event to end in a DQ or a double countout or something. That was one of my biggest pet peeves, when there'd be like a Big 4 pay-per-view and a WWE Championship match would end in a countout or in a DQ. It's like, dude, this is the pay-per-view where things end. Like, this is not like a B show. So, I don't like that at all. Or, you have Solo win. And at least, that way, you have, Cody can still fight The Rock, and there's still a story. The championship does not have to be involved. I personally would prefer if it was. Right, but let's just say you want to do Solo versus Roman. I don't know if that's the plan, but let's just say that is at WrestleMania. Then you could do that. And then you could do Rock versus Cody for not the championship.
Well, the People's Championship.
Or the People's Championship, whatever it is, right? So, you can there's at least some directions that you can go. I don't personally love it. I personally think the way that you get yourself out of it is to have Roman and Paul Heyman return at SummerSlam before the match is over. But then you've got just a mess. I mean, no one knows what's going to happen. And I guess that's a good thing.
I like that idea of not knowing what can happen.
But what if Roman's not coming back? Like, we can't assume that he is.
I mean, that's
so
very
if
good
he's
possibility.
if we take that out, then to me the only logical solution that keeps just about everybody at face value and keeps the story going in a way that is not going to damage anyone is Solo wins. Whether just completely, just dirty as it can be, everybody interferes, Cody gets beat up for 35 minutes by all four guys and nobody comes out and helps. Like, I don't care what you do. There's got to be, I think that's the only way you have to have that match. And if Roman is not coming back, if Roman is coming back and that's how you end the show, please do that, because that would be obviously crazy. And then you can have Roman and Solo feuding, and then you could move into Bloodline 2.0 versus Bloodline 1.0 at Survivor Series and War Games, and because then you'll have 2 months to kind of, Roman comes back, recruits Jay, recruits Jimmy, here we go. Recruit Sammy. Get the whole thing back together, right? Get all the Usos back in one building.
I was watching some of those clips from the when Sammy was cracking all those guys, making them all bust up. That was such peak Bloodline, and I always felt like that wasn't even. I don't think that was intentional. They just rode that wave while they.
Oh, sure.
As long. And I think that was a. I think that was a pivot, as Triple H calls it.
Oh, for sure. No,
real-time pivot.
It certainly was, and you hear Sammy talk about it. It definitely was. There was absolutely no plan until Drew actually, ironically, vouched for it to continue, because he was feuding with Roman at the time. It was before Survivor Series when they were going to have their match, champion versus champion, and Sammy took a Claymore for Roman. And that was apparently supposed to be like the last thing that they did. And Drew was like, I don't know, man. We felt something out there. And Roman was like, I think we kind of felt something out there. And Sammy was like, I think we kind of felt something out there too. And Triple H, of course, had just basically taken over that day. And he was like, you know what? All right, let's see where this goes. And it's so funny. So I've mentioned this on the podcast before, and I'll be very, very brief. One of the supervisors at my job hates Sami Zayn. She hates him. She hates him so much. And it's so hilarious to me because, her husband also works for the company. He'll, send me texts and stuff or videos of her, screaming and cursing when Sammy comes out because she just hates him so much. And it's hilarious to me because I love Sammy. I loved him as El Generico in Ring of Honor and all those other places. And then, obviously, as Sammy in NXT. And he won all of our hearts over and made us all cry a billion times. And, made us cry a billion times again, obviously, in the last couple of years. But I sat her down. That doesn't sound right. But I just got a hold of her one day and I said, hey, I have a question. You told me, and obviously we all know that you hate Sami Zayn. Why do you hate Sammy? What is it about him that you hate? Because genuinely, you are the only person that I have ever met of any walk of life that not only doesn't like him, is just not that big of he's okay, but he's not my favorite. You're not I don't even know that person. Never mind what you are. So what happened? Turns out it was because she started watching wrestling right before he joined the Bloodline. So all she ever knew was the Sami Zayn that was in the Bloodline.
Interesting.
Everybody cheered him because he was in the Bloodline and he was funny, and then he turned on the Bloodline and she really likes Roman Reigns and the Usos and that whole story. And so basically all she knows Sami as is the guy that ruined her favorite thing. And I was like, that makes so much sense. Like, I get it now. I don't agree with you, and you need to like, this sounds, again, doesn't sound right because I don't mean it like this, but like, you need to educate yourself on like the other stuff as well. But I just thought that was funny. I just recently learned this a couple weeks ago, so I figured it. But
that's great.
But yeah, so it
makes a lot of sense.
I'm really excited for where this goes. Again, personally, if I had to choose, if you're gonna do solo Cody, Roman comes back at SummerSlam. If he's not doing it, unless there's some other alternative that's not going to damage Solo permanently, I think he has to win.
That's why I kind of lean, maybe we get Jacob first before Cody Solo.
I could see it if it wasn't SummerSlam. If it wasn't the Big Four pay-per-view, I could see it. But I think it's just going to do a bit of... And plus, I don't want to see Jacob Fatu lose right now. I don't want to see that at all. Yeah. So, like, for me, I just...
Well, I'm not saying he... You know, I think there's... Your typical Bloodline tropes you'd go through there. You know, I don't know. I think it's... You know, it's one of those 100% we got to let them cook on this because it's like they could take this so many directions. What do they do if they do put the title on Solo? You know, does that, to me, that speeds up a Roman return, or actually maybe keeps Roman away longer. Maybe I
think if he wins, it keeps Roman away longer.
You know, that's kind of my next question around this is like, you know, when do you expect Roman to return right now? If it's not SummerSlam, because I think that's kind of what you're going for there. But if Roman doesn't return at SummerSlam, when does he return?
Bash at Berlin. I personally think it's SummerSlam. Obviously, but I think Bash at Berlin. Yeah. I think
Big Show, basically the Falls version of WrestleMania.
Yeah,
you know.
I think that you can either do like hot shot the belt, like Solo wins it from Cody. Cody gets his rematch at Bash at Berlin. Roman costs Solo the championship. Cody wins it right back. Then you tell that story, and then Cody has it. Maybe you could do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, that still factors into what I said before, which is I think the only way that this makes sense if it's Solo versus Cody and Roman's not coming back is if Solo wins. So it's, you know, I'm definitely torn. I just think Roman should just return so that we don't have to deal with Solo being champion for a minute. I just don't think he's ready, and it's not his fault. He's doing the best he can, but yeah. I think he's still very.
I think we need more Bloodline feuding. We need more Bloodline stories, Bloodline feuding with Roman before he's ready for a title. I agree with you there. You know, and it's funny, we have a Bad Blood PLE announced now. That's in October.
Yeah,
in Atlanta.
Yep, in Atlanta. Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
I kind of want to go. But.
And who knows? Bad Blood. I mean, that sounds like you might get some Bloodline shenanigans there. Who knows?
Shenanigans, match it. I mean,
I just hope there's not a First Blood match. We don't need any more of those. No more unprotected chair shots to the head, guys.
You know, I mean, that PLE just has me excited for what we'll talk about more with like the World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, the title alone is like we're gonna have one, maybe even two massive feuds culminate at that most good chance. I feel like you don't call something like that and not have either one of Punk, Drew, and Rollins face off against each other, one of the others, or you know, a Bloodline feud or Solo going for the title or something like that.
I wonder if they're going to do something in September. You think probably not? Because they haven't. They have one at like August 30th.
Right, because right now we have SummerSlam beginning of August, Bash Berlin end of August, October, and I think that's the first weekend of October.
Yeah, I think it's Bad Blood. I think it's October 5th.
And then November we'll have
Survivor Series.
Survivor Series and Crown Jewel.
Yeah, so probably that's it. That's what's in the middle there. That makes sense.
So I doubt we'll get a December pay-per-view at that point either. You know, we'll just launch into Raw at that point.
Sure.
On Netflix.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, that's in Atlanta too. Mm-hmm. I probably won't have the money for a ticket, but I kind of want to go.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I'd want to go
That'd
too. I don't know if I'd be able to, but we'll see.
Well, just let's see. I got a little place here. Sorry. So I guess yeah. So I mean, you'll think we'll see. You think we'll basically see Roman return before the end of the year.
I think he'll return in August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he'll return in August because I think at this point, 4 months off, he deserves it. He deserves every second of it. I hope he has gotten more sleep than he can possibly stand. I hope that he's been able to just get absolutely shredded.
I think he's going to come back.
Get rid of those bags under his eyes that he very well darn earned. Those bags under his eyes that he started to get by the end there.
Yeah.
And I hope that he just comes back and he has as much fun as he did at the end there. Yeah. With all that storytelling with The Rock. And you could just tell that he was just having a great time.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope that he continues to prove everybody wrong for his whole... That said that he wasn't a good performer and he wasn't good in the ring. And I just hope he continues to prove everybody wrong.
And he's going to come... And, I mean... 90% chance he's back in the face. I mean, and I don't want to, say that he can't, come back as semi-heel or something like that. But I mean, he's going to be so beloved when he comes back.
Think
that's what's great. That's why I think SummerSlam makes sense. Personally, I think if he's not back at SummerSlam, whatever the result of the Cody match is, whoever he faces, I would honestly wait to bring back Roman until the new year.
Yeah, maybe.
I would hold on that long. I would just hold on that long. Not even like video packages or vignettes or anything. I would just just bring back something for that first Raw on Netflix. And I personally, that's what I would do. But sure. I mean, the sooner we get him back, I think honestly the better, because we can really dig into some storylines that we haven't we've been left hanging from WrestleMania. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind that. Obviously, if the story dictates it, I'm not sure where they're going to go, but I just can't wait.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Let's move on to the IC title.
Speaking of Sami Zayn, by the way.
Yeah, speaking of Sami Zayn, I'm not upset that he retained at all. Because, I mean, we both love Sami. I think it's great that he retained. I personally haven't finished watching that match. I've caught some highlights, so I haven't really watched that match a lot. But I mean, it sounded, everything I was kind of picking up, it sounded like he took a beating, but he was the resilient Sami we love.
Yeah, the kind of story that they told was that Sami looked more physically spent than he had been in quite a while. Braun Breaker brought everything out that he could have, but just couldn't finish the job, like Sami had said, like. I think he said it on Raw yesterday, there's a difference between being able to knock me down and being able to keep me down. A lot of people can knock me down, but very few have ever been able to keep me down. And that's true.
Persona. That's just perfectly him.
Exactly. So, I was a bit upset. I watched the whole match. I think I would have liked to have seen it not be so definitively clean. Just personally, because I think if you're gonna push Braun the way that you are, just killing everyone, you're not only kind of damaging what he is if he loses, you're damaging all those other people that he destroyed if he loses. Because then those guys look like they just have no chance ever. So it's one of those things. It's just me personally, but... I picked Braun. I thought that he should have won, unless, of course, in my predictions, as you guys saw with that Braun Breaker video, I said that Brock Lesnar costs him the championship, right? So there's something like that would have made sense for me.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. We'll continue. I'm sure we're going to get into this, at least based on what we saw from Raw. Now, it's early, and it could have just been a coincidence, but... Yeah, I'll be darned. I think they might be setting up a triple threat at SummerSlam.
That could be fun.
Ilya Dragunov versus Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn. And you know what? I'm here for it. Let me see it again.
Chaos, man.
Let me see it again.
Chaos.
The only thing that I will be very upset about is if Braun pins Ilya to win the Intercontinental Championship or something. Or Ilya pins Braun to win. I think whoever wins has to pin Sami. Or Sami retains, I guess. You could do that too. But, whatever it is, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I love that I hated that Ilya came out to help Sami. I was like, no, please, not again. We saw what happened the first time.
Yeah.
and I was not a fan of it. But this time it was a little bit different. Ilya fought basically to a draw with Braun Breaker, which I think is exactly what he needs because
he could not afford another loss to Braun
No.
the way that Braun's kind of tossed him around in the last couple months because you can only push a guy like Ilya down so far without before you ruin what he's about.
And I've said this on the channel too, so I'll keep it brief, but it is getting. I said it last night to my wife when we were watching Raw. It is getting to the point where every single time, and this is awesome chance a bit played out. Obviously, we all know this, but at the same time, they don't do it for every match. So every time Ilya Dragunov is in the ring, there's a "This is awesome" chant because the fans, even if they have no idea who he is, are starting to realize every time he gets in a ring, it's really fun and it's really hard hitting and it's really good. At the very least, people are at least understanding that at this point.
And I'm not trying. When I say this, when I say what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to say that they're the same wrestler, but I feel like Ilya is very similar to Sammy in the fact that that resilience is like they're both that resilience. Like you can knock them down, but you can't always keep them down. And I don't because they're both their own wrestlers. They're both
of course
their own things. They both have developed their thing. They in so many different ways. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of fun. A triple threat actually really easy because then Braun's having to keep both two resilient guys down to try to get one of them. And I mean, I think it'd be interesting, honestly, to if you keep the title with Sammy after if they go triple threat SummerSlam, I think it'd be interesting to actually see like Sammy pin Ilya and more of like that was just the opportune time. Like Braun hits Ilya with something but then Sammy pulls Braun out of the ring and he just takes advantage of the opportunities because they seem to be friendly with each other, but it's like Sammy's like, this is my title right now.
No,
like,
sure.
You're not taking this title away from me.
Sure, and my bias is going to say just have Ilya win the darn thing, but obviously that is the least likely scenario, of course, if it were to be a triple threat. I'm not an idiot. I obviously recognize that that's the story. But yeah, for me, I think it was very much needed for Ilya, and this isn't the Ilya Dragunov segment, of course. We're gonna actually talk about the IC title and where we're gonna think it's gonna go. But I love the guy. I'm super high on him. I think that he could jump into a world title feud right this second if they told the right story, and he'd be just fine. He would not. He would not be drowning. The moment would not be too big for him. And I love what you talked about with him being similar to Sammy in just their fight, but. Yeah, Ilya is his own animal. They say it on TV, and I think it's really, really intriguing that they're leaning into it, is that he's not intense, he is intensity. He is the embodiment of intensity. And I think that is a real distinction, because it's true. I mean, I've always kind of tried to find a way to describe him, and that actually makes so much sense. Of like, yeah, there is people who are intense. And again, forgive the kind of God use here, but then there is like the God of intensity. He's basically that. Like he's the pure embodiment of intensity.
Level.
So he's a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see it if that match is actually going to happen, or if they're just going to run back Braun versus Sammy again, which I wouldn't mind. I don't mind that at all. But we'll see what happens, but. I do think that the commentators were trying really hard to get over the fact that Braun and Ilya had a great feud in NXT, and Ilya Dragunov got the better of Braun the vast majority of the time. But the problem is that very few of the main roster audience actually watches NXT, so while I know that, and you know that, and my wife knows that, and other NXT fans know that, there's a huge segment of the main roster that only sees Braun destroying him. That's all they see. And so you could say it, well, they had a great feud in NXT and Ilya Dragunov beat him this many times. That doesn't matter to these people, right, unfortunately. It should, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
so.
Thanks recency bias. They're like, but we're seeing this right now. Yeah. So give us a reason. It's one of the questions that we had kind of had prepared to talk about that I think changed because we kind of set this up, I think, Sunday, or some, a lot of these, what we wanted to talk about. One of them was like, well, what do you do at SummerSlam with these two? Do you have a rematch? And yeah, I think, I think you kind of answer that there. I think the triple threat is a very possibility. I think if you're I think in a way you maybe hold that triple threat though too. I think you could almost, if you're trying to not rebuild Ilya, because I don't think they're having to rebuild him. But if you're wanting to make Ilya, if you're wanting to show that he can go toe to toe with Braun, they get a number one contenders match the next week or two, and Ilya actually wins that, and it's Ilya Sammy for the IC title. Then somehow you get to a triple threat, at Bash or at Survivor Series even.
Yeah.
It's like, give me Hell in the Cell. Oh, give me Hell in the Cell with those three at Survivor Series.
I wouldn't,
right there.
And I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, I'd love Ilya Sammy at SummerSlam. I mean, you talk about it's so fun, like the kind of the variants of opponents that Sammy would have to face. Obviously, you got Gunther, who's just a Terminator. I mean, that's its own beast. Then you've got Chad Gable, who's a wrestling machine and has cardio for days, and Sammy can't out-wrestle. And then you'd have Braun, who's just unbelievable athlete, just is completely relentless, fast, strong, everything. But he's inexperienced, and maybe you can kind of outsmart him, or you can wait until he makes a mistake, and then you can pounce and take advantage and get it. But with Ilya, if the story is Sammy can overcome anything, Ilya can also overcome anything at this point. So, like, what happens if he, like, basically looks into a mirror and fights a more intense version of himself? Like, that would be a fun story, I think, to tell. Obviously, I would say Ilya would lose that, unfortunately, but I think it would do him wonders to have a 18-minute match with Sammy toe-to-toe. Sammy, like, looks at him like, oh, I don't want to be near this guy right now. Like, this guy's a psycho. Yeah, just like, oh my God.
That white flag now.
Yeah, this guy doesn't stop. I mean, like, it's, so that'd be fun. But anyway, so, your question was, what do I think's going to happen with this? I would assume we're going triple threat. I would either have Braun just take the belt at this point, or I would just have Sammy retain. I personally, at this point, would not prefer the Sammy retention if you put both Dragunov and Braun in this match. Because for me, Sammy, at this point, Intercontinental Championship-wise, and really even career-wise outside of winning a world title, he has nothing to prove to me. To me, personally, he has nothing to prove.
Right.
To anybody else, you can make the argument, I understand. Maybe to you, he has something to prove. To other fans, he has something to prove. I don't know. But to me, somebody who's watched him for the last decade of my life, he has nothing to prove to me. Right. He is exactly who I knew he could be, would be, should be, all those things.
Especially after beating Gunther.
Absolutely. And the obviously the feud with Roman. You could say he should have won that or he shouldn't have. I personally, obviously knowing what happened, he should not have. I think Cody is the clear choice, in my opinion, but I get it if people wanted Sammy to win. Part of me wanted Sammy to win too. So for me, he has nothing to prove to me. He does not need to beat Braun and Ilya on the same night. He just doesn't. I think that Braun and Ilya are the future. Sammy's not necessarily the past. He's the present, but he doesn't need the IC belt. There's plenty of storylines that he can tell, including the Bloodline. I mean, you're telling me, you cannot convince me that if Roman comes back to fight this new Bloodline and he goes to Jay and says, Jay, I know I'm the worst, but I need your help and you're my family and I don't know where else to go. And Jay's torn as he would be. Who do you think he's going to go to? He's going to go to Sammy. Like, he's gonna go to Sammy. Like, there's no other person. He's like, dude, I don't trust anybody on this planet more than I trust you right now. I need your help. I need your advice. And Sammy is just, he has a heart of gold. If he sees Roman and Jimmy and Jay fighting the good fight together and they're outnumbered, he's gonna be like, no, darn it, you suckers! And he'll just run out there and start haluva kicking people. Like, it writes itself. He needs to be there.
I actually want to twist it on your head, on the head just a little bit, or I would. this literally just came to me because I've been trying to over the last like few weeks kind of picture out like how do you bring Roman back if you don't bring him back at the end of the PLE, or how do you get him to, or whenever you bring him back, how do you get him to recruit Jay? How do you get him to recruit the right? How do you get him to recruit so it's 4v4 whenever you do that? I don't. In the when you do that, I think is very different for me. On top of that, if you go with current roster people to assemble a four-person team with Roman at the head of it again, I think Roman actually goes to Sammy first and say, Sammy.
You're the key to this whole thing, yeah.
You are the key for me making this happen. I know what I've done to you, but you know what's going on over there. Mm-hmm. You know exactly what's going on over there.
That, yeah.
If I have you, we can get the Usos. We can
get
I think I have you first.
That'd be fun. That makes a lot of sense. I do like that. And I think that there's so many story tropes that you can tell with that. You want to go in that direction, that makes sense. I also don't mind the Roman is kind of doing it on his own. Because he feels that he's all alone. He has no family left.
Yep.
His first family abandoned him. Mm-hmm. His Solo, his right-hand man now has taken over his spot and is, bringing in all these psychos to run around. He's got nobody, so he tries to fight it on his own. Kind of does okay, but gets beat up most of the time. Costs Solo a championship shot, or the championship maybe. I don't know. And then you get to Survivor Series War Games, and Solo and the Bloodline 2.0 says, I want Roman Reigns in a cage. Bring anybody you want, I don't care. Us four against you and 3 other people. Figure it out. I don't care. Roman accepts and says, I don't know how I'm going to do it because everybody hates me. Everybody, I'm the tribe. Everybody hates me. Nobody's going to want a team with me. What am I going to do? That's when he starts recruiting Sam.
Well, that's when you bring Paul in. It's like we finally get Paul back on the screen. Paul says like, Roman, you know what you have to go do next week. Mm-hmm. You know what you have to go do next week.
Yeah.
You know exactly you have to go talk to.
And by the way, the Roman coming back must first be preempted or whatever this thing needs to happen before Roman comes back. Preluded, I don't know what the word is. By Paul Heyman's music hitting and him coming out to the ECW music, and everybody gets a big pop, and then he just sits there,
ponytail and hat and everything.
Well, I don't know about the hat, but just walks out in the suit. And then he just does that smile, and then Roman's music hits, and everybody goes, and just loses their minds, right? So that would be good. But, yeah, I think Sammy needs to be free to do that.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's when
the first sign of Roman coming back then is whenever they take the title off of Sammy? It's like...
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But for me, I think it's all going to happen at SummerSlam. I think Sammy's going to lose the belt at SummerSlam. I think Roman's going to come back at SummerSlam. So it's going to start happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So
exciting.
Yeah, Jimmy, it's going to be fun.
They could do that so many different ways to get to that end result of that SummerSlam Bash, Survivor Series, wherever it is.
Yep.
Is just wonderful. And honestly, for last night too, kind of going back to the IC title, part of me was thinking before Ilya came back out to get back in that picture between Braun and Sammy, I was kind of like, do we have a good amount of pool of people around the IC title now? And I'm going to kind of rephrase the question that I actually kind of put out there. Who else do you consider in the IC title picture right now? Or is it just those 3? I mean, because Sheamus is kind of back. Vinci has kind of wreaked havoc with Ilya and others.
You mean Kaiser?
Oh boy, I messed that one up. Yeah, Ludwig Kaiser.
That's okay.
Wow,
I knew it.
Wrong guy.
That's okay.
Thank you for interpreting for me.
I got
you. I mean, I think you have Sheamus, obviously Bronson Reed is kind of going after Sheamus right now. I don't, and Reed's, I think you can loosely attach Reed to that. Yep. You don't have a direction for Jay right now. No. Does you put him, so I'll just pull this. Any other players you would put in the IC title picture right now, and, that you think could be involved in that picture with over the next couple PLEs through October. Bad.
I mean, couple of PLEs, no. I think that certainly a guy like Pete Dunne, I'm biased, right? I love Pete Dunne. I think that he could, I mean, please sign me up for Pete Dunne versus Sami Zayn for 20 minutes. I mean, that's just me personally. Every time that man steps in a ring, he just gets it. He gets how to work a crowd. He knows how to make things look like it hurts his opponent and make it look like it hurts himself.
Is New Kids Republic not a thing anymore?
Well, no, they are, but Tyler Bate just recently got injured, unfortunately, on an NXT show.
Gotcha.
Pete Dunne's kind of on his own for a minute. I honestly thought Pete Dunne had gotten hurt because I had seen Tyler Bate on NXT and I had not seen Pete Dunne anywhere. So unfortunately, it's the opposite. Mm-hmm. But regardless, Pete Dunne is a little bit solo dolo. He had a match with Reed, and he looked fantastic during that, as he always does. He came up short, but that seems to be the pattern, unfortunately. But I wouldn't mind seeing him in that picture at some point. But if the question is in the next couple of PLEs, no, I think you've got more than enough of Breakker, Dragunov, Sheamus, Bronson Reed. Maybe Chad Gable reinserts himself somehow, really but that's really about it for the next couple of PLEs, unless of course you have somebody random that steps up that I'm not aware of.
Right.
I believe in Joe Hendry personally.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at least I feel like some of those guys are at least loosely tied to that picture. Not necessarily in the picture right now, but if you need to come up, if Sami retains for a while longer here, you got to come up with some more opponents. I think some of those guys we listed are kind of potential opponents for him. I just, again, those are about the only guys that could really come up with that who could really kind of hold their own in that picture right now, or that at least been tied to someone else in that picture, in some fashion or other.
And if Kaiser weren't to have gotten hurt, unfortunately, he would probably be in that as well.
Yeah.
He's done well for himself, which is fun, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now.
So, men's Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Before the match, and honestly, right up to the day of the PLE, I was really kind of just like befuddled on who to pick. You said, and I will wholeheartedly give this to you. You said at least 2 or 3 weeks ago. I remember exactly when. That you're like, before his qualifying match, which I didn't think he was going to even get a qualifying match. I think that last qualifier where he was in that qualifier, I was like, did they just run out of people? Because I felt like it was a very unheralded announcement that, we have Drew in a qualifying match. And I was just like, they're not going to put Drew in this match, are they? He's got stuff with other people going on right now. And then he won it, then he got the Money in the Bank, and then he got into the match. And you're wholeheartedly, even before the qualifier, Drew's going to win this qualifier and go win the Money in the Bank. And I was like, no, you don't put that briefcase on him. In retrospect, it makes so much sense. To even take out the cash-in. I think if you just look at the opponent, I was thinking this Monday, I was like, even if you just look at the opponents, LA Knight's going to pretty much go into a feud with Logan Paul. I'm going to put the briefcase on him. Hayes is still, he's, I think, an underdog. Andrade, a little bit better of an underdog picture, because neither of them have a great direction to go in right now. So I think, I think they could have had the briefcase. But Jay, this seemed like a good year for another heel to win the briefcase. I think Jay could have. It'd have been good for Jay to get the briefcase in a sense. It's like, who's he going to cash in on? And you don't want him to cash in and lose. Because it's like, everybody else he's not going to go to SmackDown. I mean, you could, if you want to get him into Bloodline stuff before Roman stuff, he could have done some things there. That didn't seem likely. He's not going to really... Physically in a match, he could go toe-to-toe with a lot of the guys that are in the World Heavyweight Championship picture right now. But to beat either of them, I think that, it hurt him to lose a cash-in. So I really went through all those guys, and I was like... And I kind of felt the same about Chad, too. It's like, he could win it off of any of those guys, but could he at this moment, considering storylines? And I was like, yeah. Drew's actually it actually makes sense that Drew won this thing.
Yeah, and I'm going to set the record straight here. you gave me too much credit in some areas and didn't give me enough credit in other areas here. So let's say the right. So this is Please 8 days ago that I said this. So today is the 9th of July. So I said this on the 1st of July, which would have been the night that Drew McIntyre had the qualifier.
Gotcha.
It was indeed before the qualifier, if my memory serves me correct. It may have been slightly after. I don't remember. But it was at the very least either right before he qualified for the match or just as he qualified for the match. And I not only said that Drew McIntyre was going to win the briefcase, I also said that he was going to cash in that night, and Punk was going to cost him the briefcase, and Damian Priest was going to retain, and that we would go a full year without Money in the Bank. I said all of those things 8 days ago. So again, not 2 to 3 weeks ago. I wish that I was that good.
With time.
I'm not quite. Hey man, me too. The only reason that I knew that was because when I was watching Money in the Bank, I literally pulled up that text message that I sent to you to show my wife, where I'm like, "See, I know things, right?" Like, so, but
hire this guy.
Right, so yes, please do that.
I'll coach Pledge.
Like, you know, again, I don't deserve the credit of having that much foresight 3 weeks in advance, but I definitely not only called that he would win Money in the Bank, but I called everything that was going to happen with Money in the Bank. It made so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And I also found it very intriguing, and they played into it now on Raw, and I was really hoping they would. Because my wife and I were talking about it, and I told her that this is what I think is going to happen. She said, well, what happens to Seth? And I said, oh, well, that just reignites the Seth and Punk feud. Seth probably didn't want anything to do with Punk. He was just going to ignore him.
Were so
and
good last night.
Punk inserted himself into Seth's business, whether intentional or not. He did. And now Seth can't challenge for the world title because of CM Punk. Not because he lost, not because Damian Priest was better than him, but because of CM Punk. Yeah. And so now it's a blood feud on two fronts for CM Punk. And I, for one, cannot wait to see what happens. I cannot wait to see where they go. Do they do Seth first? Do they do Drew first? Do they do a triple threat? I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it here in a minute. Yeah. I don't know. But I just can't wait to see it. But for me, I think that they did the right thing. I think we just had a full year of a Money in the Bank. I don't need another one.
Yep.
I think... I picked Finn before any of this happened, so you could say I know nothing. Clearly, he wasn't even in the match. I picked Finn to win this thing before, and even before that, I think I picked Solo.
Yeah, we talked about Finn, we talked about Solo, we talked about a lot of guys that weren't even in the match.
Yeah, so
which speaks to the depth of the men's roster right now.
Sure,
in a way, and it's like you could have probably had you could have had 2 briefcase matches in a sense.
Oh yeah, for sure, you definitely could have. And once the Solos and Finn and all those guys didn't qualify, I was truly sitting there going, all right, what stories do they have to tell here? What are they doing? Because to me, at that point, once those guys were gone, the Money in the Bank either needed to be a storyline trope or take a shot in the dark on somebody new. And honestly, with Triple H in charge, I'm good with either. With Vince in charge, take a shot in the dark means Austin Theory. That's what that means. And no offense to Austin Theory, but all of us knew that was going to go poorly. Not quite as poorly as it went, of course, with the failed cash-in on the U.S. title. That's about as bad as it gets. But, obviously we kind of looked at it like, oh, this is not going to go well. But, Triple H, I would have been okay with him taking a shot at the dark on Mello or taking a shot in the dark on Andrade or taking, whoever, right? I'd have been fine with it, but... they went with Drew, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, I kind of wish I would have really thought deeper about that when you said that night, because I'm just like, and just the fact, just taking, again, just the ladder match itself for Drew to win, it makes so much sense. And then obviously the storyline developed, and then Drew just went postal, he literally has broken. He gets on the set and it's like, kind of crosses the line what he did after the PLE, and I was like, oh boy.
Yep. He snapped completely and utterly snapped.
And it's like, I didn't think the guy could snap anymore after he had Punk on his shoulders a couple SmackDowns ago, but apparently he could snap more.
Yeah.
And I don't blame the guy at all. It's a I thought that was a fun match in itself. But it does make so much sense because no one else really fit the bill. Of a surefire. Yeah, this is our Money in the Bank for next year and for the year or however long. And I agree with you. It's like, especially since there's some good long-term storytelling with Tiffany having the briefcase. It's definitely, I think, fine having the men's already cashed in.
Yeah, and on the Punk and Drew front. So this is going to sound like an odd segue, but I promise it'll loop back around. So I'm a big fan of the show Daredevil. I don't know if you ever saw Daredevil on Netflix, now on Disney Plus, of course. Phenomenal. I think it may be my favorite show outside of How I Met Your Mother of all time. Unbelievable show. I mean, just truly remarkable. But nobody to me can personify villainy better than Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. And I'm sure you remember these aspects of the show that I'm about to go into. There are moments in the show where the Kingpin's going to kill someone that you care about, a character that you like, and they make you sit there and they make you wait, knowing it's going to happen. But the fun part about the Kingpin and the way Vincent D'Onofrio plays the character is very rarely does his pure fury come out unless he's in the actual physical act of trying to kill or harm someone. When he's just sitting there talking to the person that he's about to kill, it's so calm. And that's so much worse for me personally watching, just knowing, oh God, because you just sit there and wait, and then it finally happens, and you're just like, oh God, there it is, he's dead. Like, it's just the whole thing. And I was kind of hoping that they would do the same thing with Drew. But they obviously went so far into the fury, like beating up attacking Adam Pearce, being suspended because he's so angry he can't even talk to people. Like, he's just going to go in and start beating people up. Like, they went all the way to left field. I was hoping that they would go all the way into right field, where Drew just, like, the snap in his head was just emotionless. Was just pure calm before the F5 tornado. And no, not the Brock Lesnar kind. But, like, just the pure, like, cool air, and then just absolute murderous rage. But, like, not the murderous rage that you see sometimes on WWE television where a guy just, like, kind of punches him a few times. I'm talking the murderous rage where the Kingpin grabbed one of his henchmen, threw his head in a car door, and smashed it so many times that it started making squishing noises. Like, that kind of rage. Like, where, like, he's not punching him 3 or 4 times until his hands drop a little bit and then he gets off of him. I'm talking punching him until his hands drop and until his head goes back flat against the mat, and then the punches just get faster and faster and faster until it's just like, he like, you could see that he's getting manic and crazy and he won't stop. He's almost completely, like, not even on this planet. He's just so lost in anger that he's just going to punch him 55 to 60 times. Like, that's what I was kind of hoping we would see. That Drew would just snap in that way. We went all the way into left field. See, I told you it would loop around. And, like, that's kind of what I was hoping we would do. Of course, it's not happening. I'm still interested to see where they go, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But in terms of, I'm sure Money in the Bank, we're talking about the World Heavyweight Championship here. Where does that go? Yeah. I mean, I think it's obvious at this point, Gunther's probably winning this belt at SummerSlam. I cannot foresee, barring some completely unforeseen circumstance where, like, Brock Lesnar returns and attacks Gunther for some reason because they just want to do that match before Brock retires. I don't know, like, something just that just doesn't even make. I don't even care if every member of the Judgment Day in its current iteration and Edge comes back, and Christian comes back, and Gangrel comes back, and the Judgment Day add 5 more members of from NXT into Judgment Day as a surprise. Like, all of Chase U just joins the Judgment Day, and R-Truth rejoins the Judgment Day. I don't care if all of that, not according to him, but, you know, like, I don't care if all of that happens, Gunther is still winning this match. Like, I cannot see a world where Gunther does not win this belt.
Yeah.
I just can't. Because at this point, they're not going to be any, Seth's not going to interfere. Drew's not going to interfere. Punk's not going to interfere. Nobody's going to interfere. There's other than Judgment Day. That's the only way you have. And guess what? Judgment Day doesn't like Damian Priest right now.
Right.
And Damian Priest, even if they did like him, he's just going to tell them to back off. Yep. He's going to tell them not to interfere anyway.
The one that answers the question where first couple questions that I want to definitely get onto with this, and I almost feel like you have to take it off of Drew right now because he's kind of botched a couple big matches.
You know,
like, I don't want to paint him bad. I don't want to paint him because I'm sure there's botches that we probably don't see. Sure. I just think we're seeing them more just because the product is so good. So many more people are scrutinizing it more. So it's like people are pulling at that thread more. But this one was a little too much. Where I don't know what happened. I'm not going to speculate what happened. I think a few different things could have happened. I almost kind of wonder if they had to hit Drew's music so they could get him out a little bit sooner than maybe they planned because that botch happened, or because Drew, the way I look at it is Priest was supposed to kick out there, but he didn't. He missed his cue or something. I don't know. But I'm almost kind of wondering if they kind of rushed Drew getting out there because of what happened there.
Yeah.
And I think the plan was still the same, make the triple threat, which I thought was funny. Because it's like, we haven't seen that much, and we were kind of, we were hoping that's what Priest was going to do 6 months ago, was making a triple threat at some point, or at least I had. I couldn't remember if you had or not, but
I did not. I had him doing what he did, which is catching after the match.
Right, but that regardless of that, I just thought it was interesting because it's like he could have waited till that match was over and just gotten revenge on just Priest for what Priest did to him, but he was just still so desperate for the title. It's like, whatever, I can go take out either of these guys. Punk's not going to be here. Of course he's not. And of course he was. It's such a well-told story. To me, it's great how the story's been told of, it's been with the title in the picture, but it hasn't been with the title in the picture. It hasn't needed Drew to carry a title for the feud between him and Punk, and I think that's just wonderful. Obviously he's had his matches and titles. He did technically hold it for 5 minutes, how many ever seconds at WrestleMania. But the fact that he hasn't been the main title holder of this feud is just great to me. But I'm with you though. I think right now it's like the focus is Priest and Gunther. Yeah, the 20 people are going to have to come in and interfere in that match, and Gunther's still probably going to win that match because it's Gunther. Unless, it's, and because you don't think there's any chance they make that a multi-man match, do you?
No.
Because I feel like that's just a shot in the face to Gunther if they did, because
100%.
Like, hey, you won King of the Ring, but...
Especially if that doesn't happen to Nia. If Nia gets a one-on-one for doing the exact same thing and Gunther gets a multi-man...
Yeah.
It's not going to be good. And I think even if you gave them both multi-man to make it fair, it cheapens the King of the Ring.
It takes away from what King of the Ring happened.
King and Queen of the Ring, of course. Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's a foregone conclusion that Priest. So I don't know. So then we're left with Punk and Rollins or Punk and Drew, and it's like, which match do you think happens first here? Which one boils over first, and we get a match between the two first?
So before I get into that, I do want to say something about Damian Priest and the botches. Okay, I was talking about this with my wife the other night. When Punishment Martinez or Damian Priest, of course, Punishment Martinez is who he was in TNA, and other places, of course. When he came over to the WWE, a lot of people were really excited. I personally was not. I had watched a lot of his work. He'd obviously lost a tremendous amount of weight since he was on the independents. He had gotten better at performing in longer matches. He had diversified his moveset a little bit. But I just still didn't love the character. I didn't love the skill level. And I still thought that his timing in the ring at times was very poor. And it's not even like a consistent thing either. It is a when it rains, it pours thing. Mm-hmm. If it happens once in a match, it's going to happen 10 times. And that's what frustrated me. And it happened a lot in NXT. I don't remember what match it was that he had, but he had some kind of either North American Championship match or just some singles match on a pay-per-view. I can't remember what, or a PLE, whatever. I can't remember what it was. But I just remember watching it, and I saw him just miss time several different kicks and, just like miss different spots and kind of just be off a little bit throughout almost the whole night. Mm. And I sat there and went, man, until he looks good, he's got an intriguing character here. It's a little different than what he was in TNA. Like, I can see the potential and I can see where he can be good, but he needs to improve on this. And to his credit, he got a heck of a lot better in NXT throughout the year and a half to 2 years that he was there. He got a lot better. When he got called up, most of the time when he was called upon in a big spot, he performed well. He got better. His character work got better. He improved. He did a lot of things. And I said, man, if this is the Damian Priest I can get, then I'm okay with it. He's a guy that I can get behind. Mm-hmm. And recently, he has really struggled. Those old habits are creeping up again. It feels like the pressure might be getting to him a little bit, whether he wants to admit it or not. Now, look, I was willing to understand the rope issue at Clash of the Castle. Yeah. And the reason is because he was not the only one that had issues with the ropes that night. There seems to be some kind of either slick issue with the ropes, or they were too loose, or something was off with these ropes that several wrestlers had issues with these ropes. So I can understand in a big spot like that where he's stepping up over the rope, if there's some issue with the ropes, he slipped. I was willing to let that go considering the other issues that other wrestlers had. They weren't as major as that one. That one just looked gnarly, of course. Right. But other wrestlers were having other issues with it, so I understood. Not that I'm hoping that he was knocked unconscious, because I'm not, because that would be horrible, but I'm almost hoping he was knocked unconscious, because if he wasn't knocked unconscious, then that leaves two possibilities. Number one, he thought he was in a different point in the match than what he was at, or he thought Drew McIntyre's music was supposed to break up the pin. Or the worst one, which is he forgot to kick out. Just straight up, I blanked. No. I forgot what I was supposed to do. And my God, if you are the world champion, and by the way, you're the bad guy in the match. Traditionally, bad guys call these matches. Now, maybe with Seth, obviously, maybe Seth's the one that's
probably calling it.
But yeah, regardless, my God, if you're the world champion and you forget what to do, that's bad. So I'm almost hoping he was straight knocked unconscious. And I honestly went back and I watched it kind of in slow motion. I could see that he might have been. He might have been knocked unconscious. He might not have been. He might have just been selling. I don't know. But there is kind of like a head turn and then an eye flicker and then kind of like a rapid head movement of like, my bell's rung, I can't move. And I'm hoping that was the case. Because if that was the case, as unfortunate as the botch is, you kind of have no choice but to forgive it. Because he literally couldn't have done anything else. He couldn't move. He was unconscious. Right. So I don't know.
That would lead to a little more of the sense why the ref would just stop calling because he's like, you could explain that away, I think, a little more than anything else, too. It's like, there's something wrong with Priest, so that's why I stopped counting and stuff. I mean, I didn't, it's, yeah.
The problem is that Priest immediately rolled over and started moving again. So it looked like he just got his bell rung and got knocked out for a second there. And I did see a video, and I kind of watched it back, and there was a knee right before that Falcon Arrow where he didn't kick out. Is it possible that knee and then him landing kind of jarred him, and he was like, oh, like, wow, my ears are ringing, I can't see. Because I've been in situations where, like, I've been hitting the head with, 85-mile-an-hour fastball or something, your ears start ringing.
Yeah.
You're not knocked unconscious, but your bell's rung.
Right.
And you're laying on the ground on your hands. And even if you're sitting there going, I'd like to move now, it's kind of hard to move in those moments because your brain, your whole body is basically saying, if you move, you're going to, like, hurt yourself because your brain is all scrambled right now.
Yeah.
And so it is possible that his ears started ringing, his vision went blurry just for a few seconds, and then when the ringing stopped, he went, all right, I need to move, I need to get out of here, I need to start, finishing the match. And he may not have even known that he didn't kick out and that a pin was happening because his bell was rung. I've been there. So I'm not hoping, again, that sounds horrible. I'm never hoping that anybody ever got hurt. But in that instance, given the gravity of the circumstance of how bad it looked, I hope that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I've seen it before. Alexander Wolf, a guy who's now unfortunately been released as of a couple of years ago from WWE, got kneed in the head during a match. It was an accident, of course. It was like 3 minutes into the match. Just a standard knee to the head on a tag team, double team, 1-2, kick out, match continues. He didn't kick out. He was out. Gone. I mean, he did not move. His shoulders were like this. 1-2. Referee tried to do the thing where, like, the shoulders were off the mat, but everybody knew, oh boy, like, this is not good. Like, he was gone. His eyes were just not good. So I've seen it before. Maybe that's what happened. But to answer your original question of what match do they do first, I think it's criminal if you don't do Drew first at this point, right? I mean, I get it.
Unless you run the suspension angle for a while with him or something. I think that's...
Well, no, he's coming back next week.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, a lot of these ideas came before Raw, and I got to place Raw into that too. You're right, because Punk was like, I don't care. Get him back here. We need to settle this, man.
Yeah, and it's I didn't love. Look, the promos themselves were fantastic. Seth and Punk. I mean, obviously they're both tremendous.
Fire.
I don't love how it ended, for storyline purposes. I don't like that Seth said, "Now the second you are cleared, I'm gonna rip your arm off." And it's like, okay, I get you're upset, but I think it would have made more storyline sense and better sense for him to go, I actually respect Drew McIntyre. He beat me fair and square at WrestleMania. He took my championship, and because of you, he doesn't have that championship right now. He fought for it again, and because of you, he doesn't have it. He fought for it again, and because of you, he doesn't have it. There's a pattern here. Drew has earned my respect, and now I'm going to let him demolish you. I'm going to let him ruin your career. I'm going to let him rip your arm off and send you packing like you deserve. But if by some miracle there's anything left of you by the time he's done, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be the one that ends you. That's what he should have said, in my opinion. Because that would have given clear priority of Drew's got the first crack at you because, my God, he's earned it. I just got back.
Yeah.
You screwed me once. You screwed him like 38,200 times. You screwed me once. I'm not going to forget that you screwed me once.
Right.
But you only screwed me once. You screwed him a bunch. And I respect him. Because you saw that he respects him at WrestleMania. You saw it.
Yeah.
I respect him. Then it's Seth afterwards. But now it's all muddled to where realistically you could do Seth first. You could do Drew first. Or the worst case scenario would be a triple threat. I don't want a triple threat.
No.
I want it to be two singles matches.
Yes. There's nothing at stake for there to be a triple threat match. Because that was my thought, too, of this whole thing. It's like, even before the promo, it's like, there's no way, unless, like, a number one... I think maybe in a few months you could do a number one contenders, or triple threat for, like, a number one contender match for the title or something. Just because... But, let them get their bad blood out.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm very curious... I'm very curious to see what happens here. Yeah. Drew should get the first crack at him. I hope it is too. I hope that is our SummerSlam match. It's kind of like, well, what do you give Rollins at SummerSlam? He doesn't necessarily need anything at SummerSlam. Give him a big PLE off. You got so many matches, potential matches right now. Anyway, you already have 2 title matches. You're gonna have some kind of blood feud match for sure. So there's already half your card. So it's like you don't have to give Rollins a match. So it's but yeah, I hope Drew gets first crack.
Yep.
And that can tee up Rollins and Punk for something later, whether it's still this year or when they move to Netflix or something. But I'm excited for whatever happens. But yeah, that's where I was kind of wondering where you were at, just as far as like those 3 together, because it is so muddled right now.
Yeah, and I hope that with the matches, there's no interference. I hope that Seth lets Drew have his moment with Punk and doesn't interfere, and vice versa.
Exactly.
So here's what I would do personally to kind of solve this issue. I think that obviously with what's happening is Drew's going to come back next week. They're going to hammer out a contract. They're going to try to figure this out. I think you have Seth come out, and I think you have Seth argue that he should be the person that fights Punk first. And then obviously Drew's going to be like, dude, I don't have a beef with you, so not right now. Because I swear to God, if you get in my way, I'm going to run over you so fast, like Drew's not going to be okay, right?
I'm going to put you back out for 2 months again.
But Seth is, he screwed me. I can't even fight. If you lose to Punk, you can fight for the world title again. You can keep getting all these opportunities. I can't. Just all the, and you have the argument, and Pierce makes a match. Maybe not for that night, but maybe for the next week or the week after, whatever. Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. Whoever wins faces CM Punk at SummerSlam. Drew wins. Seth has to go, fine. And Seth has the character to say, he even did it to Damian Priest the other day, or on Monday, where it's, look, all right, rules are rules. You get the first crack at Punk. And because I respect you, because I'm a good person, I'm not going to interfere. This is your fight. All I ask is you respect when I have my match with Punk eventually. You do the same for me. And Drew and Seth, give a nod of approval, and they're on the same page. Got it. Oh, by the way, rip him in half, right? Like, just kind of... And that would solve that issue. That gives the fans a fun little match between Seth and Drew again. Drew can win. And now you're back to Drew gets the one-on-one. There's not going to be any interference because Seth has the character to do that.
Right.
Because if you reverse it, if Seth won and he gets first crack, Drew would not be able to handle staying away.
No.
As soon as the bell would ring, there would be an ice pick shoved into the side of CM Punk's head. Just ding. Like that, there would not even be a millisecond of that match to have. So I think Seth would need to be the bigger man and say, I'm gonna let my anger go crazy for this match, and at Bash at Berlin, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, or whatever you want to do with that, right? So I think that's how I would do it. If somebody can come up with a better way, or if you can come up with a better way, let me know. But that's how I would do it personally, just to kind of, because again, otherwise it's just gonna be like we've waited for at this point now. What did he come back? Survivor Series? That's November. It's July. That's 8 months for Punk to have a match. Yeah, he was in the Rumble. I get it. But that's not a match.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a match, but that's not a wrestling
televised singles match.
We have not had it.
Yep.
So we've waited for 8 months. We've now waited for 6 months since Drew is the one that injured Punk. Obviously he didn't, or at least not on purpose. But we've now waited 6 months to see Drew Punk. We've also waited about 6 months to see Seth Punk too. I don't want both of those matches to just be interference-laden junk.
Yeah,
I want them to be full-blown, drag-out wars between all of those guys individually.
Which makes me hate that Gunther's going to win the title at SummerSlam. Again, and I just said 5 minutes ago, I'm glad the title's not around with these two. But I feel like if the title was the centerpiece, you didn't have Gunther was somewhere else, then you could really have some fun with these three.
Yep.
Then you could do the triple threat, and you could have all kinds of fun.
Yeah, and I know that the original plan, I don't know. I'm assuming the original plan was Seth versus CM Punk at WrestleMania for the title.
They pretty much admitted that in the documentary.
Right, exactly. So for me, I kind of, this is more of they're using what they have, and they're kind of playing with the cards that they've been dealt. And they could have very easily gone and said, yeah, Gunther, I know we were going to do this at SummerSlam, but we really wanted to do this at WrestleMania, and Punk's going to be back in time for SummerSlam. Let's just, put the title back on Seth and do Punk versus Seth here. They could have done that. And I think if they told the story in the right way, none of us would have been too upset. But I love that Triple H said, no. Gunther's our guy. That's been our plan. We're sticking to it. We'll do Seth Punk a different way. It doesn't need the belt.
It doesn't.
And I think that's a great thing, because Vince would have just said, no, put the belt in the money match. How many times did Vince do that in his career? I mean, so many times. And I'm glad that Triple H is not doing that. He understands that the biggest match is not always around the championship, but the championship should still always main event. And I love that he's doing that. So, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But I'm excited to see where this goes, man. Is there anything else? Did we cover everything?
I mean, the last thing I just can't help thinking is poor Damian Priest, because what the heck do you do with him after SummerSlam?
Finn.
I mean, I think that's I think that's easily going that way, but
either that or he can get a rematch.
I mean, yeah, but it's I would, in some fashion, I would love a Fatal 4-Way #1 contender at some point, maybe at Survivor Series or something. Once we get past the one-on-one blood feuds, have Priest, have Drew, have Punk, have Rollins all in that match. For #1 contender for, Day 1 of Raw, or whatever Day 1 of Raw is. You win Survivor Series or Crown Jewel even. You win that #1 contenders match. You're main eventing hour 2 or even the end of the show for the first show on Netflix. You versus Gunther. Good luck.
Yeah, maybe. And I will say all the bad things that I just said about Damian Priest and the botches and the inconsistency. I truly, honestly think that he has done a good job.
Yes.
I think that he has done a good job as champion. I think he presents himself dialogue, character, presence-wise as a really good champion. And I hope that even when he loses the belt, people still will look at him in that light, because he deserves it. Mm-hmm. He has earned that. He needs to clean it up a bit.
Yeah. In
the ring, of course. But if that's the worst thing that happens, I'll be okay.
Right.
We'll be okay.
It will definitely be okay. I feel, too, that Priest... I enjoy that Priest has said, I'm doing this by myself, Judgment Day. I'm doing this by myself. I'm doing this by myself. And, I think we're kind of expecting him to turn face anyway, so I think that's...
Sure.
I think that's more an indicator of face tendencies. But still, the fact that the character is doing that speaks volumes to me because he's not like I'm gonna keep leaning on this group to help me through. It's like
Sure.
I've arrived and I'm gonna prove why I've arrived.
Absolutely, and it separates him too. There's so many champions that have, heel champions that we look at and go, oh, they're not like the super main event guys, like your CM Punks at the time, or the Miz, or I'm trying to think of a Seth Rollins the first time when he won the WWE Championship. Like these guys that just always use interference, always are just slimy and figure out a way to win, and they just get beat up all the time, and they're going to lose every single match. And granted, there is still a little bit of that with all the CM Punk drama, but at least Priest is doing his best to not be that bad of a heel. Like, where he's like, dude, you know what's funny? I'm not even going to beat you. These other guys are going to beat you, because I can't beat you, but I've got these guys, so I'm not worried about it. There's just so many champions that have done that. He's not doing that. And I think that's helping kind of shape what his run is like, and also shaping what his character is going to eventually become. And by eventually, I mean, I think pretty darn soon he's gonna turn face. Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna start with this next match with Gunther.
Yes,
it's gonna start there, because Gunther is just ultra. I mean, even just look at the promo packages, with the match, which is Damian Priest is like, I look forward to the challenge of fighting Gunther.
Yeah,
and I look forward to proving people wrong, and that I'm the underdog in this match as the champion, and that I am going to walk out and I'm going to win. And Gunther was just like, I don't like people. I like hurting people. That's fun to me. When I came to WWE, I was like, there's a lot of bodies for me to smash. And then I smashed all of them. And I'm going to keep doing it because I'm a monster.
I'm going to keep getting in better and better shape every single year while I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's like,
I putty boy.
Basically,
when he first gets NXT UK.
Basically, his argument is, I like hurting people, and I'm just going to keep doing it. And, I guess I'll take that title too. Sure, why not? Like, that's basically it. Like, which one's the good guy and which one's the bad guy? It's pretty freaking clear.
Yeah.
So it's, it's starting with that, and he's going to keep leaning in.
Yeah.
And keep leaning in, and then eventually Finn's going to turn on him, and we're going to get that feud. So
yeah, and one last thing about Priest too that I like is the fact that, WWE trusts him to hold this title while guys like Punk and Rollins and Drew, which in their personalities and their totality as a career, it's those three and Priest.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that has the title amongst all these top guys.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just how much trust the WWE has in him at the same time. And he gets to have another top guy that he faces in Gunther. That, again, there's like 2% chance he wins, if that.
Sure.
But the fact, so I think that's kind of cool. And the fact that he's had Finn as a tag partner is like, he's been surrounded by great talent.
Absolutely.
This last, year and a half.
And Rhea, of course.
Oh, yeah, not even, don't even, forgot about Rhea, who is back.
Mommy's back. Mommy's home.
She's back. Oh, man, this is going to be
Dom's gonna die. Dom's gonna die.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
There's
so many storylines we didn't even touch on tonight. We just talked about stuff Money in the Bank related, and there's so many other good things going on right now. This is going to be a great end of the summer, great into next year, kicking, and then 2025. I mean, oh my word, so much to look forward to. We haven't gotten the Rock back yet. We haven't got Roman back yet. We get Cena's retirement tour.
Yep, it's going to be amazing. And who knows when Becky's
I need to win the lottery. So I can afford to go to some of these things.
Yeah, don't we all? Well, all of those topics and more will be for another day, because we are 2 hours into this sucker. Hopefully you guys had as much fun talking about this stuff and listening to this stuff as we did. What do you guys think of just all of the things we talked about? What do you guys want to see with John Cena's retirement and the Intercontinental Championship and Tiffany Stratton's Money in the Bank and the World Heavyweight Championship, CM Punk and Damian Priest? And what do you guys want to see? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let us know in the comments section. Other than that, thank you all so very, very much for watching, and we will see you all next time.